Welcome back once again, you guys, to Raining Cats and Dogs. I am your host, Henry Jansen, sports writer for the Kirksville Daily Express. This afternoon, it will be raining exclusively dogs, but we have a very exciting episode for you and a lot to get to. We will be talking recruiting heavily. We're going to start with a conversation with wide receivers coach and recruiting coordinator Jamar Johnson for the Truman State University Bulldogs, and then we'll talk to head coach Kellen Nesbitt. Later on, we will talk to Truman women's soccer coach Mike Cannon about his recruiting endeavors. And so let's get right to it. Coach Johnson, very nice to be joined by you this afternoon.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Well,
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome to the program. Just go ahead and before we really get into the meat and potatoes of talking about recruiting, just introduce yourself a little bit and just how your football journey you're originally from Anaheim, correct?
Yes, sir.
And just how everything kind of brought you here to Truman State University this past March.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, you did your homework. I heard absolutely how amazing and professional you are, and you've been nothing but that, man. But yeah, man, originally from Anaheim, California, born there. Kind of lived all over Southern California a little bit, but got some family from LA, some family from Orange County. Went to Fullerton Junior College. Went to Fullerton Junior College. Before that, went to Servite High School, though. Kind of the Trinity League, which are modern days, St. John Bosco's, Orange Lutherans, pretty predominant ball clubs I got to be a part of. Once I was looking for a college, I ended up at University of Laverne, where I played ball and playing receiver there. I played running back. And then once I got done there, I was really lucky where my head coach gave me the opportunity to coach the wide receivers there. And so as a graduate assistant. So it was an awesome experience because I got, everybody that knows a graduate assistant coach, you're basically a full-time responsibility position coach with not the pay, right? You're getting paid in your graduate program, which was an amazing opportunity. Ended up winning the first championship there in the SCIAC conference at the University of Laverne, first time in 27 years. It was really, really special to me. It was we had a motto, make the big time where you're at. So that will forever be a big special moment for me. I always wanted to still coach Division I ball at that time. Kind of crazy. I just jumped in my car and drove to San Jose State University, where I didn't have a job. I just volunteered, just showed up and shook the head coach's hand at 5 a.m, let him know that I had just finished and I'm here to work for him. And he was just looked at me a little bit like, that is crazy, but I like it. And slept on the floor for about 4 weeks volunteering. And then luckily the guy that they just hired quit. Boom. That's how I got my foot in the door in Division I ball. Did a second GA there. And then after that, kind of going to my first full-time job at Dodge City, Kansas, where I coached wide receivers. I always had the same role, recruiting, and then was there for a year. And that head coach retired. Me and my wife just got there, just got married, excited. And then he retires within about 6 months. So I'm the interim head coach, and it's kind of crazy. We got the #1 recruiting class in the country, and man, all type of great coaches are coming through in middle of nowhere, Dodge City, Kansas. That's like one of the Last Chance U Netflix shows. Schools, and Dan Lanning's coming through at the time. He's at Georgia, and so on and so forth. And I ended up taking my profession to Iowa Western Junior College, where I was, and I was there for 3 years and won a bunch of championships there. It was awesome. And then got a call from Central Arkansas. It was awesome call there, and was there for 4 years, won a bunch of championships. It was awesome. And then got an opportunity to come here at Truman State last March, man. So it's been absolutely amazing.
As far as talking about the recruiting side of things, a couple things that I think are very interesting. You talk about growing up in the land of the modern days where, recruiting is just a natural and organic thing. Yep. So you've been exposed to it from basically since your high school playing days.
Yeah, 100%.
Does that impact what a recruiting offseason looks like, just having that kind of experience of seeing so many high-level dudes go at that?
100%. I think it just gives me perspective on talent, just the level of talent, just to understand that, hey, what it looks like, how the type of program that they're at, how that translates to the type of recruit you're going to get, and how they're going to do at your school, and just the probability. No one has a genie, but you have a really high chance of getting a really good kid that's going to be productive if he's coming from a program that's doing that. And I think that kind of spilled into what we did here at Truman State.
And to that point, I mean, no matter what sport it is, you're always going to hit and you're always going to miss sometimes. It's just the nature of it.
100%.
One thing about your time at Central Arkansas that I really find interesting is not only were you the wide receivers coach, but your designation was also portal coordinator.
Yeah.
Talk about just you having that kind of background of how the entire landscape of college athletics has shifted to the point where you have the designation portal coordinator. 10 years ago, maybe longer ago than that, 15 years ago, that would be unfathomable.
Yeah. No, it was about the same feeling for me when they gave it to me. But in a nutshell, man, you were already basically doing that. And I think with what Coach kind of seen in me is that it was one of those, hey, you gotta I think naturally I was coming from Iowa Western was the #1 junior college in the country, right? So you can almost think of the guys that we're getting there aren't necessarily all the high school kids. We're getting the big transfer portal kids, right? Your big name guys. So it was a pretty seamless transition for them to make me that guy because I already had the connects to the schools and I already had the connects to the recruiting coordinators at the colleges that they knew of a 4 or 5 star guy that to be frankly honest, they knew he might be leaving, or maybe a 3 or 4 star guy that might be behind a 5 star guy that's not playing as much. And so they know he needed a spot. So they knew I kind of already was working ahead. And so that pretty much translated when I was at Central Arkansas. Heck, we were able to sign a big time 5 star receiver named Trajan Bridges from the University of Oklahoma. And so, Alabama and everybody else was, that's just one example of how kind of that transpired. But it was pretty seamless for me.
Some other names that would be, people in the know have heard before: Malachi Henry, Tyler Hudson. Those are highlights on your bio on my website, on the Truman Athletics website. Just talk about what it's like to snatch some of those dudes who go on to have amazing careers.
Man, to get my hands on those guys, honestly, you're only as good as your players, to be frankly honest. We got the whistle, but just being able to pour into those guys, but more importantly, the way they were really receptive to coaching was awesome for me. And, Malachi Henry, being an Arkansas kid, he was actually he was converted into a receiver from being a DB. And so that was the special thing for him. We knew he was pretty athletic. He had some receiver experience, but his primary position was DB. And we ended up taking him as a receiver. I seen that he could run really well. He was really detailed, but I felt like there was areas where I could absolutely mold him. And nonetheless, he came in as a wide receiver, and kind of crazy. His first year, he's a freshman. The day after I left, he wakes up and he's a freshman All-American. And this year, kind of ironic as I'm here at Truman State, he was also a Jerry Rice finalist and ended up transferring to University of Cincinnati. So guess it checked out. He ended up being pretty darn good, right? And then, Lawan Winningham is another one. A number of those guys, Tyler Hudson, those guys were awesome. Lawan Winningham ended up going to the Jags. Tyler Hudson ended up going to the Rams. So let's just say they were pretty good.
That's pretty amazing stuff. And the Malachi Henry thing, I think that's a great little bit that you kind of double dip. Not only do you get the kid, but also you get him to convert to your wide receiver room.
Yeah, and you just got to help them develop. That's a big thing because you can get talent. That's one thing, but can you get them to develop into what you see them as? Sometimes see them as something more than they even see themselves. And we were really lucky of that. And it was a head coach's son in the state, so he trusted me, and I did not take that lightly. And man, I'm really, really happy we got our hands on him. We got a really good relationship with all those guys.
Where'd his dad coach?
So I think, let's see, Atascocita out there in Arkansas. There's another school out there, just like in Texas.
Right on. That is very cool. A handful of things about the season. I thought that, and I think anybody would agree with this, your wide receiver room was as cool as it gets, especially what did you have to do personally to get your guys ready to go after, Battle has an incredibly unfortunate injury early on. Things didn't immediately look promising for him, and then the worst was confirmed. How did you guys just adapt? And just it was somebody new each week. It'd be overwritten one week and then Drewy the next. And what goes into that side of things?
Honestly, it's I think it starts honestly even before season. It's pouring into my guys. For me personally, I should say I had just got there in March, right? I just got to the program in March of last year. So it's not like you've been there 2 years, right? These guys are kind of learning your style, and it's a lot of buy-in you have to do because, I mean, heck, you can know the X's and O's till you're blue in the face, but if they don't believe in you, it's not really going to work. And that's what's going to, the time you spend with these guys in the off season and making sure they know that I care, right? They know that I care about those guys. I'm learning about them, the ins and outs. Now, once we got to the X's and O's and the technique, and now they trust that I can get them better. Now, the information I'm giving them, they're being receptive and they're being coachable. And then on top of that, now when you get into actual battle in a game, now they can go through adverse moments when you look them in the eye, when it's third and long, when it's fourth and short, when it's whatever, second and medium, and or the game's on the line like in a Davenport, and you're like, I don't care what happens, got to go out there and make a play. They're going to make it just because they don't want to let you down, right? So that's how we got through it. Battle getting hurt, just hey, next guy up, and it's a very much a brotherhood, and they understand that we're extremely close group, and we push each other, but they understand that we're going to pick each other up too. I'm a very I allow them to lead. I want to empower them to lead in the room. And, they're gonna have a whole lot of opportunities to lead and show each other that hey, they got each other's back, and that's what they did this year.
One thing that I really loved about this receiving group is if you go down the line and look at season stats, just how diverse it is, how balanced it is just across the board through all of your ball catchers. Schematics wise, is that a week to week thing or is it just who's hot that day?
It's, you know what, man, it was unique because, right, we had the injuries, we had this, right, someone banged their toes. So you kind of have to, and man, credit to Austin Zoder, our offensive coordinator. You talk about having the ability to adapt to who's available.
Yeah.
Who's healthy, who's available. So I think that played a big part into that, right? Who was available. But my guys knew, I don't care if you were first, second, third, it didn't matter in the depth. I very much created a culture where it wasn't very much like, oh, okay, you're a starter. And yeah, they knew who started the game, but they understood that anyone could absolutely be ready to jump in this game and you had to be ready. So they weren't like, oh man, this is week one. Man, all right, never mind my maybe a second or third depth guy was like, oh, I'm not going to get, no, kid, you got to be ready. And so I made sure that they felt encouraged with that.
Before we go into a little bit of recruiting stuff, just talk about what the difference is going in. Only been here since March. You're now in your first real full off season where you kind of have the reins a little bit and adjusted.
Yeah.
What's the difference between year one and year two for you personally?
I think year one and year two. Year one is just having the guys buy-in, right? And learn who I am, learn my why, you know what I mean, how I coach them, them learning my, style and my expectations. So now they know those things. And now they know the standard of how we need to play in our room, how we need to carry ourselves off the field, how we need to prepare. And more so now going forward, it's okay, how do you take advantage of the things that we did well? And how do you get better for things we didn't do so well? And so really they got what the taste was. You talk about the first time putting the playoffs in a really long time, right?
31.
And so, yeah, that's a long time. So first time for these guys, right? And so the way they're looking, I say, hey, okay, you got a taste of what that, you got a taste of what that was like. Okay, how about we go run that back? And just getting in is not good enough. And so really they don't have any choice. They know like, okay, the first time it happened, okay, it could be done. Because, when I first got here, I looked them in the eyes and I said, we're going to do some special things. And then when it happened, they were like, wow, that actually happened. So now they understand that, hey, that's actually real. It could be done, but we got to be better next year.
I love that your group especially it's a very selfless group, kind of going back to what we were talking about. It could be any guy's week and, hey, kid, you got to step up. It's your time right now. The selflessness to kind of pass the torch to the next man at any given week. Is that a product of, I really hate to throw out the word culture without it just kind of as an ambiguous word, but is that a product of culture? Is that a product of coaching, or is that just these kids being here for each other?
No, yeah, 100%. It's all those things. I mean, I wish I had the perfect answer, but it's all those things. We talk about the Yak Boy standard. We call my boys the Yak Boys, yards at the catch boys. But I told them it's not just a cute slogan. It's the way we we wake up. The way we eat, sleep, breathe, being supportive of each other. and holding our guys to a standard to be ready. I don't care. That's my coach knows this. Coach K, Coach Zoe, the staff knows that. I run my room. Yeah, we might have a starter for the day, but that don't mean you're going to be started tomorrow. Yeah,
Absolutely.
right. And so that keeps everybody hungry, but it's very healthy competition. They push each other. I really got a number of coaches in my room, assistant coaches, and they push each other. So that's how you keep that edge of having a guy ready to be that next guy up.
I love that. I'm going to kind of wrap these two questions into one. Just as far as your recruiting coordinator duties and where that's taken you so far and who you've seen that you liked, just talk about this is your first real cycle in that position, how that's gone.
No, 100%, man. It's absolutely been amazing. Coach K, granting me that position, I'll forever be thankful for. It's been great learning in these. I don't care how long you've done it, you're always learning, right? I think, if you're doing it the right way, you're always learning. And it's awesome because I've always been naturally where I've always been. I've held the title, but it's mainly like, hey, you're in charge of just getting the guys. We'll always have someone else kind of do the paperwork side of it, the compliance side of it. But no, this time I was like, hey, you're in charge of all of it, right? Like you're doing the compliance, you're doing the like, hey man, I'm used to talking to the guys. So it's been great because you got to learn that side. You got to understand what you're doing that is legal or not illegal. Like you need to understand what's going to keep your program in good compliance or not. And so that's been great with me working with Jeff Bruder, right? And obviously our AD, she's been awesome. And that just that athletics admin side of it has been great. So that from the paperwork standpoint and learning that side of it and always staying compliant for me, that has been great because now going forward, it's like second nature. Okay, I know exactly what they need and what they don't need, so on and so forth, what they'll need for the official visits and so on and so forth. But for the recruiting standpoint, I think that for me, that just comes back to people. It's all people at the end of the day, whether I'm talking to an Oklahoma bounce back or I'm talking to a really great man from Lafayette High School where we recruited Brady Missick. So you know what I mean? It's all the same for me from that standpoint. Now, what was unique here, you have to adjust the way you're recruiting because there's different standards. The way to get into school, like my last place in Central Arkansas, where it's a Division I school, is not necessarily the same here, right? There's different parameters. Now you got to go off a GPA. Hey, if a guy's if a guy's maybe not be a 3.0 plus, where he's going to get the most money to get into the school. So all of a sudden, where by my last spot, I was more, hey, you're just landing the guy. That's it. Like, do what you got to do, land the guy. We got the rest. Now it's like, okay, all right, now I have to have a really good relationship with the admissions because they got to be able to give me the information on a young man when I send in the transcript. All right, can he get into school? How much money is he getting? Okay, I talked to registrar, I talked to admissions. Then you got to talk to this department. So my what I was able to see is that working here allowed me to have a relationship with multiple different departments, and that's something that just naturally just can expand your brain and your mind on. And to land one kid, I'm going to talk to registrar, admissions, housing, literally the people that run the sub, the people that run the library, like people for the official visits. Now you're talking to every department, teachers, because when we bring official visit kids on campus, one thing that we do is pretty unique. We're going to get them clicked up with a teacher in the field that they're interested in. So guess what? You got to do a really good job of having a good relationship with the teachers in the departments and reaching out to them ahead of time, respecting their time. And so it's a lot of work to land just one great gentleman. And let's just say the whole campus of Truman State, they've batted 1,000. There has not been a kid that I've connected with them that we ain't got that we really wanted. So it's been great.
One thing that I've said a number of times on the show is it's really easy to get people to give you information and talk about things that they're knowledgeable about and passionate about. And so all that kind of interdepartmental work, I hope, has been pretty streamlined for you when it comes to that.
It's been awesome.
When it comes to that side of things.
It's been awesome.
One thing that I would be remiss to not ask you about as a recruiting coordinator in the world of football, you've seen it happen in real time, is the differences between now and like we were talking about a decade ago with NIL and transfer portal and all these things. Like you've seen all these things go into place right before your very eyes during your coaching lifetime. What are some differences? What's that been like? Some of those unique battles between Division I and D2, all those kind of things.
100%. I think honestly, regardless if it's D1, D2, D3, I mean, when every young man that you're recruiting, you know what I mean, that's talented, is seeing online, right? You're talking about social media. Now they have the ability to see what other kids are getting. Guess what? Whether they are, whether we think or they think they're deserving it or not, um, it's a good chance it's going to be a part of the conversation on their end. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, man, like, I'm seeing what this guy's getting. Do you guys give this, right? They may not ask for the same thing that the kid from Alabama's going to get, right? But they might have, hey, coach, do you guys get this? Do you guys get that? And you have to have those conversations. Hey, man, no, this is a program where we're looking for a great young man to be an addition and be productive. But just by getting the things that you 100% need, right? And that's a scholarship, that's guidance, that's teamhood, that's brotherhood, just things like that. And just really being able to weed out all that garbage. You know what I mean? I personally, I say garbage. It is great, right? In the sense of if you have the ability to get those things, but you also don't want it to become toxic. And even some of those programs that are dealing with NIL, and they're happy that they do have, let's just happen to say $50,000 to give a young man. If you don't handle that the right way, you don't coach them and you don't nurture like who they are and pour into them, that can turn into a really toxic situation because it's only two teams going to the national championship, right? So there's a lot of teams with $1 million contracts on why they're not there, and so you got to look at that. And we're not a program like that. And so, a lot of teams that we beat, like they have money, you know what I mean? And a lot of teams that, that we ended up being better than, as far as getting into the playoffs, they had money and we did it. And we found a way just to make that happen just based off the great resources our school has given us.
This is, and I'll let you go on this. This is kind of a question I'm always curious about for somebody on the inside. The GLVC being so unique in that half the schools are football and half are not. Does that impact recruiting whatsoever when there are only so many schools in the league when the other half don't have to worry about that football money necessarily? Is that a battle you fight?
I really don't think so, man. I really don't think it's really had a big impact on, at least it's a battle that I fight. I mean, regardless if a school has football or not, we're going to be in a battle no matter what. You know what I mean? No matter what, it's going to be a battle. If the ground play is even, guess what? They're going to find something on us that they're going to try to recruit against. If it's not where we got football, they're going to try to find something. At the end of the day, it's going to be about the coaching staff that the kid feels closest with every time. And that's what it's going to come down to.
Coach Jamar Johnson. Anything I'm missing? Anything I'm forgetting?
Nah, you're absolutely amazing at this job. I see why you're doing it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Coach Jamar Johnson, wide receivers coach and recruiting coordinator for the Truman State University football Bulldogs. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to the program.
It's been a pleasure. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Joined now by head Truman State University football coach Kellen Nesbitt to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts, the actual personnel we're talking about bringing into this year's 2026 recruiting class. Kellen, welcome to the program. Friend of the program, Kellen Nesbitt. Happy to be joined by you this evening.
Absolutely. Glad to be back.
So just a handful of the things that we talked about. Who do you like? Where's the trail kind of taken you? What has this recruiting process been like? And how, in the grand scheme of things, do you build on a postseason year in 2025 with the kids that you're bringing in?
Yeah, it is. The recruiting is a process. We just finished up this signing class here in February and we're getting ready for spring ball, but we'll start the process of identifying potential prospects for next year's class as early as this month, and start recruiting contacts this spring. So when you get to that February signing date, it truly has been a year-round cycle of evaluating players and IDing players that we think we can recruit, and then trying to generate some interest and getting out on the road and meeting parents and meeting prospects and high school coaches and all of it. So it is a full process. And each class can be unique based on how many seniors you had. You're dealing with the 36 scholarship, model, and you're breaking those up into partials with each kid that you're going out and recruiting. So, depending on who graduated at what positions and what your needs are can change kind of what you're looking at. So on this particular year on offense, quarterback was a position we wanted to prepare for the future. Dylan's going to be going into his senior year next year. We had one other quarterback on the roster, so we have two quarterbacks right now on roster this spring, and you'd like to be 4 or 5 arms, by the time you get to fall camp and build some depth there. So that was definitely a need on offense, and we did a really good job there. Coach Zodes, each position coach is kind of the lead point man for their own position. Recruiting, we have area recruiters when we get out on the road, but then it turns kind of more to the position coach or the coordinator. So Coach Zodes did a good job identifying some good talented kids, and we took a transfer that'll have 2 years of eligibility and a skia, from Collegiate DuPage, just won a national championship there and goes by ski. So really good athlete, and we're excited to get him in. And then 2 freshman guys to add in as well, and Jake Shazine and Brady Mysek, both a couple of St. Louis kids that had big time years, down there in St. Louis. So that was a really good job from that standpoint. And then the other position on offense that I thought we really hit a home run on was the wide receiver position, and went in again, recruited for the future, but got 3 really talented players, a couple of kids from Festus High School that are playing for AJ Afable, who used to be the strength and conditioning coordinator at the University of Missouri, and was on the Gary Pinkel staff, and he played at University of Missouri and had a NFL stint. So a guy who really knows how to train athletes and developed a couple of really fast athletic wideouts from down there. And I thought we did a great job with those 2. And then one of our ex-players, Donald Harvey, was on the roster when we first got here in 2009. I think he was a senior, and I can't remember if we had him for 1 or 2 years. 2010, 2011 graduate, somewhere in there. Really good running back, slot receiver, and he's gone on, and he's a teacher and a coach down in the Houston area, down in Texas, and he's originally from Texas. And anyway, he sent us up the name of a kid named Corey Robertson, who's a really productive wideout for them, 2-way player, wideout defensive back. Really good track athlete for him. I mean, really fast kid. And we kind of built a relationship with Corey, goes by Rack, and his mom, and ended up getting a commitment, out of him, out of Texas, to add a 3rd receiver into that room. So those ended up being the 2, bulk positions on the offensive side of the ball. And we were balanced. We got a tight end commitment. We got a running back commitment. We got an offensive lineman commitment. You always want to keep a balanced class go on, but those were probably the 2 biggest offensive areas of need, going into it. And it was all for the future. Next year you got 9 returning starters on offense. So we felt good about what we had coming back. So it really was putting the building blocks in as we get ready to transition out of some veterans, moving forward. So really pleased, with that. And flip over, I guess, to the defensive side of the ball, defensive line, some pass rushers, some defensive end was definitely a goal in this class. And we took 3, Jamar Sims from CBC, Easton Smith from Rolla, and Xavier Teal from down in the Springfield area, Parkview High School. And all of them have different strengths. All of them can add something, in the future. And then we think we'll have chances to play relatively soon in their career. So Coach Doc did a really good job shoring up that position with those commits. Really pleased there. And then the other position was our defensive secondary. We'll essentially be breaking in 5 new starters next year in our secondary. So we needed some immediate help. And then we also needed some depth and recruiting for the future. And we're able to land 2 transfer corners, one from the University of North Dakota, Idrick Carmichael, and then another one from California JUCO Moore Park, and DJ Richmond. So those guys hopefully can compete to help, right away getting in here. And then we added another freshman from St. Rita High School in Chicago that we think is a really dynamic athlete. And then Seth Johnson from Warrensburg, a real good track athlete. So those guys are corners. And then we added 2 more safeties, one from Kansas City and AJ Gowan, real big physical athletic safety. And then another one from Crown Point, Indiana, which is an area we haven't recruited. It's not too far from where we do the bowl game out there at Hobart. But his name's Dominic Fanton, really athletic, kind of level 3 guy. So 6 defensive backs in this class to go with the 3 DNs, and those were by far our biggest area of emphasis. And again, we took a couple linebackers, some different positions. Well, got a kicker in there, a big leg kicker out of Illinois. So definitely balanced everywhere, but those were definitely the needs. And I thought the staff did a great job and hit a home run at those positions. So excited to get them here.
Very good. And this time of year in February, obviously that's when a lot of questions are being asked. One of the most imperative times of the recruiting cycle. What really needs, from a head coaching perspective, what do you need to see before spring ball begins? I mean, have you checked all the boxes that are going to be checked, or does the trail continue?
The trail always continues. We feel pretty good. Our roster's got to be, if you had to put a number on it, 90 to 95% set, between what we just got committed, what transferred here and started with us this semester, with those 3 transfers, and then our returners. We're sitting at about 70 players, on the roster right now. So with the 23 new players, we're, already next fall, you get 93 players on the roster, and that's, plus or minus, that's about where we usually sit. So it's all but done. We'll get through spring, see how a few guys develop at a few key positions, and then there could possibly be the discussion of maybe a player or two looking at in the spring for another junior college type kid or a transfer portal, type guy that's still flowing around there. But we probably won't cross that bridge until closer to April or May, as we're really looking into it. But it's pretty close, so this time of year is all about, a football program really has the heartbeat of it's really a couple things. One is recruiting and trying to get that, great talent in, and then the other is player development. So we've just worked as a staff really, really hard to add this class and put it together. And now February, March, April, we'll really focus in on our own player development on those 70 guys that are returning and try and solve issues with guys that are here in-house already. So it's always fun. I love the off season. I love the spring.
Before we talk a little bit about spring ball and kind of what your schedule is going to look like as we get closer to the weather being nice, talk a little bit about Jamar Johnson, Coach Johnson, and the work that he's put in since he showed up on campus last March, and how kind of instrumental 23s, like you say, 23 is about where you want to be and you're enthusiastic about these kids. His hiring, some of the work that he's done in his first season as a Bulldog, and just him as a wide receivers coach as well.
He was a really good ad from a recruiting coordinator standpoint. He's an excellent recruiter, one of the best recruiters I've ever worked with. And we've learned a lot from him since he's gotten here. And it's been a good marriage. He hadn't been at the D2 level yet. So learning that 36 scholarship model and how the business side of things work, I felt like we were able to really catch him up to speed. But what he really helped us out with is he's just really elite in the relationship building process. And once we targeted in and honed in on what guys we thought could help and what guys we thought could be multi-year starters and potential all-league type players, he did a really good job of just systematically recruiting those kids, building relationship with their families. And we just really got to know them. And I thought it really helped us at crunch time when it came time to get the visits and get the commitments. I thought we had a lot of preset momentum. So I was really just pleased with what he was able to do from a relationship standpoint, and learned a lot from him that I'll take and continue to move forward as a recruiter.
Jumping in March is difficult. There are kids that you'd already had your eyes on for several years that he had to kind of catch up to speed with. Some of those types of situations where you might have had better insight than he would on just a kid's specific talent or something like that. How did that, like you talk about that being a good marriage, how did that kind of work from that end?
Yeah, I think, that was one of the things that was excellent about him. He was a real team guy. So it wasn't, where he came in was truly just once we knew who we wanted to get, he just was such a good job at the actual recruitment of the prospect. But he certainly wasn't, we didn't have any tension, in terms of what we were seeing any more than you would on normal staffs. I mean, all staffs are you and I could watch the same player on videotape, and there could be some parts of his game that you really like and some parts that maybe I'm worried about. So there's always never going to be like perfectly eye to eye on how we see it, an individual player. But, ultimately each position coach has a lot of pull with their position area, that they're looking at. And then ultimately coordinators and head coaches are going to, make final decisions on who we're offering and who we're going after. So, but he was really good. And like I said, he had to shift into our business model. We're always going to recruit the state of Missouri. He was used to more of a huge wide net, more of a national type of recruiting. And, most years, 80 to 85% of our rosters are going to be Missouri high school kids. And then we're going to go fill a few key spots here and there with, maybe a Chicago kid or two, a Houston, Texas kid, a transfer here, but by and large, 80+% of those kids are Missouri kids. And honestly, when he's used to recruiting the way he's recruiting, it was a breath of fresh air. It was, this isn't so bad. I just got to zip down to Columbia or St. Louis or some local area schools, so it was, from that point, I think he enjoyed this model and, and how we recruit here.
Both sides of things as a wide receiver coach and as a recruiting coordinator, we really like what he has done here at Truman State University. Look ahead a little bit to spring ball. Like you mentioned, the development side of things, kind of what your expectations are, when you guys are going to get started and everything that's going to go into just spring practice in general, looking ahead to the fall.
We got about 5 weeks left of just lifting and running, training, trying to build that baseline strength. And we're really trying to improve our overall athleticism, bigger, faster, stronger wins in this sport, so we're just trying to maximize the talent of every player that we have. And then once we come back off spring break, it shifts more into practicing football. And so I love spring. Dad always used to say this, it's, you get these 15 practices and you don't have the threat of an opponent coming at the end of the week. So you don't have that just rat race of trying to get ready for a Saturday game. You can really, really focus on our installations, the execution of our offensive and defensive schemes, and then really the fundamentals, that can help those guys play faster and be more productive within those schemes. So it's a fun time of year, and we're out there on the recruiting trail, and it's, like I said, it's a big heartbeat of a college football team. You have to be great at recruiting, but it's also always so fun to see what guys elevate that are here on the roster. There's going to be a surprise or two of a kid who's really ready to take that next step, guys that we're not certain about. And it's such a fun time of year as you see guys really take an opportunity and run with it and kind of elevate themselves within our own program. So that's what this time of year is for. And it is a super fun time of year. And it's a fun time to coach. It's really just a fun time really trying to maximize these kids and help them have a really great experience and maximize their experience.
9 returning starters on offense, as you mentioned. How many do you bring back on defense?
Defense is got a little more work to do. You've got the 2 defensive linemen that were starters. We do have both backers back, but the secondary, like I said, is pretty much getting turned over, right there. So you're going to see 5 new starters somehow, some way. And we do have some guys who got some good experience in backup roles and kicking games. We have some guys with little game experience, but we'll be breaking in a few new faces on the defensive side of the ball for sure. But offensively, be a lot of familiarity. A new running back. The Denham Cook era is over, so we'll be moving. Somebody else will be carrying the load. But we think we have some very talented backs on roster, so we're excited to turn that thing over to some new faces. And then tight end, we had the seniors, and then Gerard Gruey transferred out, so we'll have an open opportunity there at the tight end position as well. So, rarely do you get a third-year starter back at quarterback and an entire starting 5 offensive line backs. So that's a good place to start from an offensive standpoint is having that guy back, plus an entire O-line and receiving core. So exciting from that standpoint.
Great place to begin.
Yeah.
Fantastic place to begin is right there. You bring back all of this experience on offense, entirely new secondary, like you say, but that'll figure itself out. Does that make, one thing that Jamar mentioned is that he had a bunch of assistant coaches in the room, that veteran leadership. Does that make the spring side of things earlier, the degree of accountability, the more that you can focus on what you as a head coach need to focus on instead of necessarily making sure that these guys are doing what they need to do because it's such a veteran group?
That absolutely it does. I think those veterans, that culture just feeds into itself, year after year. And it's another fun part of this process. The only thing that changes is the face, as you just see a new guy elevate into a leadership role and kind of take charge of the room, and multiple guys. We have so many quality people in the organization and so many quality kids that are evolving leaders at all position segments. So it's another reason that you don't know exactly who's going to elevate into some of these spots, but it's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be some guys that start stepping up and have been taught, from some of those coaches like Coach Johnson's talking about, that just stepped out and kind of showed them the way and showed them what this is supposed to look like. And it is the fun part once you have that momentum culturally of watching the players pass it down class to class and generation to generation. So very exciting time of year.
Aside from, like you mentioned, filling in the secondary and adding a pass rush, what are some other things that you are especially excited to actually see once you get these guys on the field and what that's going to look like?
Well, you hope that the offense continues to keep taking steps forward, and they were pretty good, last year. So it's Dylan's a dynamic player, and he's got veteran pieces around him. So you're excited to see how that continues to grow and continues to evolve, and as we find new ways to utilize his skill set. So that's very exciting. And then defensively, while there is some turnover, we do think we have some very talented defenders, down there in the weight room that are hungry, young and hungry and getting ready to have an opportunity So we're excited to see some of these athletes and as they put it together with some of the playmaking that they'll be able to display. So it is going to be some turnover, but there are some very good players that are hungry and looking forward to this opportunity.
Coach Nesbitt, always very good to see an excited head coach this time of year. Second week of February, and you're already champing at the bit.
Yeah.
Anything else I'm forgetting?
I don't think so. Really, really proud of the staff and the work they put into it. Recruiting is a grind. It's a lot of time, a lot of weekends. We came back off New Year's weekend and we had a visit. We probably had somebody on campus almost every day for 30 straight days, Saturdays, Sundays. You're running kids and showing them campus. And with that, not just the staff, but so many people here on campus. There's so much that goes into it, from the meals and the Sodexo and campus tours and getting buildings opened, being able to get kids in and show them the Student Union building and the rec and the Kirk building on holiday weekends, and people working with us to get keys and get those, and the Purple Pride girls doing tours and 5-degree, weekends, and just all the and I'm forgetting the admissions, counselors and registrar helping us with all the transcripts and pre-approving who's admissible and who's not and what the academic scholarship packages look like. It really does take an army, and but on the back end, it really shows what makes Truman special and really shows us off well, and it was a great recruiting cycle, and we did a great job with those visits, and there was just so many people involved, and it just makes you happy to be a part of it, here at Truman.
2025 Coach of the Year, Kellen Nesbitt, Truman State University football. Very happy to have you on the program, sir.
Thanks for having me. Yep.
Joined now by Truman State University head women's soccer coach Mike Cannon. Very nice to have you on the program this evening.
Thanks for having me again.
Appreciate it greatly. We are kind of in recruitment talk mode this evening after having spoken with some football staff. Just kind of checking in with you and seeing where you were at after a 5-6-5 season, 5-5-4 in the conference. Just looking for some pieces to get over that hump. Of course, you bring back your 3 top point getters and goal scorers in Quinn, Madison, and Aubrey, but looking in the offseason for some ways to supplement their talents. How has that process been going?
Good. Really happy with the class that we have. We got 8 young ladies coming in, mainly St. Louis kids. We have a kid out of Columbia, and then another kid like Illinois side of St. Louis, but not exactly planned that way, just kind of worked out that way. But yeah, kind of fill all the needs that we felt that we have. Again, we did better offensively, but still trying to get even better. So trying to bring in a few kids that we think will help us score more goals, and then some other kids that'll plug in some other spots too. And we lost 6, bringing in 8. So we were at 30 last year. We'll be at 32 at this point. So a little bit bigger, but we have a really large junior class. So trying to offset that maybe like a little bit a year out. So we'll have we probably won't bring in as many in 2027 just to offset that we brought in more this year. But yeah, no, very excited. We had them up. Jacob and I were talking. We had them up 2 weekends ago. We had like a little welcome day that we do for our incoming kids. So it went really well and seemed like a good group, soccer playing wise, but also as people. So pretty excited.
What does the recruiting trail in general for you and your staff look like? When does it start? What goes into it on your end? All of those kind of things.
Yeah, I'm sure like all the coaches say, it's always going. So there's no real start or end, it seems. But yeah, I mean, we're done with our 26s. We've been working on our 27s for probably the last year as well. Obviously, as we've gotten close to get done with our 26s, we're obviously ramping up more with our 27s. So we have a few offers that we don't have any commits yet, but definitely looking ahead to that next year. So it's almost always like 1 year ahead, almost a little bit. The kids that we're mainly looking at right now are juniors, like just starting their second semester. So, just trying to like keep that going. But yeah, as far as, kids that we've seen already, at our camps, out at high school games, club games, kids that have come and trained with us. Now we're kind of following up with some of those kids, but then obviously you're getting more kids that are contacting us. And, right now there's not a lot going on in terms of recruiting, obviously with the weather. But like that'll gear back up in March, April through the summer. And that's probably our main time for like the next class is probably mid-spring through like not quite the end of the year, but pretty close in terms of like when we get our commits basically for the next class.
Talk a little bit about your group of 8. Losing 6 is huge to any program when there are only 11 slots on the field at any given time. But talk about the 8 that you're bringing in and some of the spots that you believe need filled, that you have filled with this recruiting class and just that group of girls.
Yeah. I mean, the 6 we lost, important players. And obviously with the new kids, you know, you have ideas about like how you think they'll help, where you think they'll help. Doesn't always mean it's going to be 100% that way. They might end up in a different spot. So kids that you might rate a little bit lower than another kid might be the one that actually ends up playing more initially. But yeah, we feel like like you said, we're bringing in a few wingers with some pace, you know, try to get at defenses, get some central players. We bring back quite a few kind of central mids and backs, but again, a lot of those kids are going to be like seniors next year too. So trying to bring in a few kids in case, you know, again, always want to have competition. Hopefully young kids come in and push the older kids and also learn from them. But yeah, I think you know, again, it's a little bit of everything, a few backs. Basically, besides the goalkeeper, we're going to bring in another goalkeeper next year, but we're pretty young in goal this year. Mainly, we're focusing on bringing like, you know, another center back, another wing back, a couple central mids, a couple wingers, target forward, and we pretty much did that. So, yeah, we're excited. You know, we're looking for athletic, talented, you know, good kids that are, you know, obviously good students, but also hopefully they're competitive and driven and want to get on the field. So hopefully that helps make the older kids not fear for their job, but, you know, like pick it up and keep trying to get better as well. Kind of fend off the young kids for another year.
I really like what you said too about happy with goal scoring, but other needs that needed filled. Some of those supplemental spots you talk about, the center and the wings, some play in net, adding some depth in net. Really, what is it going to take for this team to jump from exactly 500 to in the conference to like really getting over that hump with this group of scorers that you still have intact, and in addition with who you're bringing in?
Yeah, you know, a lot of it is experience. Some of it, I think, you know, especially for like our sophomores and juniors, which will be our oldest kids next year, juniors and seniors, starting to have more success, and hopefully like wanting to have more of that and have that become the standard like we have previously had. And, you know, that's kind of the goal. And I think that, you know, we're just going to have to, I don't know what the right exact word would be, but like, you know, like especially in soccer, it's a somewhat low scoring sport. So like there are key moments, key plays that happen that can determine the game. And that's like in every sport, but like, especially in soccer, it might be like one mistake that leads to a goal or one great play that leads to a goal. And, you know, just trying to like make sure that we can grind out games too. There's times that you don't play that well, but like, can you still get results? And I think we were starting to edge much closer to like that type of team, but there were some games that were close that we didn't come out with, or we ended up with a tie or a close loss. That I think that's our next step, is to, you know, move up into the upper middle part of the conference at least. But we're gonna have to get some of those results. You know, you're gonna have to like really fight and battle to get, you know, a couple of games maybe right now that we lost by a goal or that we tied. Like those are the games that we're gonna have to get results and get wins.
I think that your sport is unique. 16 games in total you guys played last year. 14 of those were within the conference. So that's the vast bulk of your entire schedule. That said, talk a little bit about the conference. Talk a little bit about, like you just mentioned, trying to get into that upper third. And a conference tournament berth is always one thing that you have pinpointed on the wall for these girls. Talk a little bit about the state of the GLVC and what you guys really think that you, from a head coaching perspective, have to do to climb that ladder a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough conference. Obviously, I think all of our coaches would say that, and I think it's true for all of our sports. You know, again, like, so that's why I say you got to be consistent. You have to come out every game and play like to at least a certain level. You know, and then again, we play everybody once, but it's kind of, that doesn't vary exactly, but it kind of varies a little bit, like who you have at home, who you have away. So, you know, in some sports you might get to play home and away against teams, and so like it's kind of balanced as far as who has the advantage being at home. So, you know, some years you might be like, oh, we have, you know, a better home schedule, possibly with maybe some of the lower teams, so you might have a better chance. But you can look at it the other way too, that maybe you want to have better teams at home, so you have a better chance. Obviously, winning on the road is always a little bit tougher than winning at home. Yeah, that's right. Yep. So yeah, I think again, you can't really look at too much of what the other teams are going to do, but obviously some schools are going to lose a bigger senior class this year. Some schools maybe are bringing back most of their kids, so it kind of fluctuates a little bit. But you want to make sure that you're ready to take that step. And it happens every year. There's a group of teams that are at least recently been the better teams in the conference, but there's teams that have gone down and then back up, or vice versa, gone up and then back down. And like we're going to be more of a consistent team in that top group. So really it's just going to be consistent performance. We're going to have to get some results that we haven't got recently, or we've been closer to getting. And again, like I really stress that like little tiny things make the difference. And that's that way in every sport. But, we have to have the confidence and the belief and a little bit of that taking a chance to take a chance, take that shot, take that extra dribble, try to beat that extra player, to give yourself an opportunity to score that goal. So to me that we're that close. I think we're very close to making that next step.
Back to kind of that recruiting point, this group that you're bringing in, a conference that knows each other so well. They know the GLVC knows its conference opponents better than it does anybody outside of the conference. Any recruiting battles within conference that you've run into, anything like that in particular?
A lot of the kids are looking at the same schools. If they're looking at Division II, looking at a good conference. If they're looking at staying in the Midwest, good academics. A lot of the schools kind of offer similar things. Obviously, we definitely push the fact that we feel like we're the top academic school in the conference. If they're looking for that, then definitely this is a good place for them to be able to play high level D2 athletics. And also get a top-notch education as well. But yeah, there's majority of the kids are kind of like when they're like, I'm looking at, 4 or 5 schools, what schools? And it's Rockers, UMSL, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I've heard of them. They're in a conference, so, but it's not surprising that's, and again, that's probably a good sign that we're on the right track. If they're looking at, NAI schools or D3 schools or D1 schools, you're like, look, that's not a bad thing in any sense, but maybe they're still looking and you're kind of like, all right, how good do you think you are? Or, are you good enough? If they've already kind of narrowed down the level that they're looking at, you're probably and again, we've seen them play, but you're pretty on to that. Those are probably the kind of players that are going to do well in the GLVC.
And in the world of women's soccer, I'm sure you hear that all the time. Jewel, Rockhurst, UMSL, other schools that these girls have been looking at. I think that you fight a unique battle in that regard. Those metropolitan schools that are just 3 hours away that, like you say, are offering the same things that you guys are offering. I think that probably presents you a unique challenge being in Kirksville.
Yeah, well, it's harder to see the kids play as much. That's the main one. If, in a couple months when the high school season starts in Missouri, if there's a kid from whatever Kansas City or St. Louis high school that's got a game at, 7:00 on a Tuesday night, well, if we have practice that night, we get done at 6 or 7. It's unless I have a jet plane waiting to take me, some of the, the big time D1 basketball coaches, I'm not getting there. So, where those coaches, all right, I'm going to drive over to so-and-so high school and watch this kid play for the 8th, 9th time. And it's it'd be nice, but that's just kind of how it is. So, we rely a lot on video as well. Obviously, we want to see kids play in person, but video's big. If we can get them on campus, obviously D2, you can do a tryout. So, we use that quite a bit when we can with kids that we are very interested in. We have our camp as well. And then we're trying to get out and see them play. We're just not going to see them probably quite as much as some of those schools in Kansas City, St. Louis. Majority of the schools in the conference are in kind of bigger areas, so they do have that advantage when it comes to kids in those areas.
I'm glad you point that out. That is a very unique perspective and a unique challenge for you and your coaching staff. Look ahead outside of the scope of recruiting. Look ahead to what your returners are up to, when they're really going to start getting back to work as far as just weights and conditioning and stuff like that, what they're doing right now, what your expectations are for them, those kind of things.
Yeah. We're right about midway through our kind of winter training. We're lifting 3 times a week, conditioning twice a week, and practicing twice a week. Sounds like we're doing a lot, but besides the practices, those are all hour lift, hour conditioning. So it's 8 hours what we're allowed right now. and half of that can be with the ball. So, so we're working hard in the weight room, trying to get stronger, trying to get fitter, trying to get faster, all that kind of stuff, but also like better with the ball. A lot of the stuff that we're doing, especially since we've been inside, just focusing on like skill, first touch, like just trying to get better individually, technically with the ball. So we'll do that through spring break, basically like early March. And then when we get back, we have a 6-week outdoor season where we actually can, closer to the fall, we can't practice quite as much, but pretty close. And we can play scrimmages. So those are kind of like the big tests. It's kind of like your kind of preseason, like in the late spring and then summer, and then we start free season in the fall. So the spring's really important, especially for like for your players that are established. It's important. You hope that they can get better and improve as well. But I think it's like a great opportunity for kids that played maybe like more of a minor role or a decent role, or maybe didn't play at all, to have an opportunity to play in the spring games and show what they can do, because the games don't count, but like you're playing, we've mostly played other D2s and NAIs that are a pretty good level. So for me, it's like a great opportunity for all the kids, but especially for the kids that want to play more.
You've been doing this for a very, very long time. On a year-to-year basis, aside from your personnel and the faces that you're looking at and who you have rostered, does anything really change with any given spring or looking ahead to the fall?
That's a good question. I'd say, for the most part, it's similar. Like obviously the weather sometimes can dictate some of that stuff, but in terms of like the spring games, it'll rotate a bit who we play, but we kind of play some of the same schools a lot, like Northwest Missouri, Missouri Western. Geographically they're fairly close, but also comparative in terms of like level. But yeah, it just depends on the year. Obviously, there's sometimes you might have a spring that you're kind of like, I thought we'd do a little bit more, and then you come out in the fall and you do really well. And then there's other times when you have like an incredible spring and you're like, this is really going to show in the fall, and then maybe it doesn't pan out as much. So it's a good indicator, but it's not always the indicator that you're for sure going to either have an excellent season or like a so-so season. But obviously you want to use the time that we have to improve our team individually and collectively. So, it's important. Obviously, like I said, we're limited with the amount of stuff we can do right now, but we want to be pretty mindful about making sure that we're doing well with that and trying to get better.
To your point about just soccer as a sport in general, where one sequence can dictate the outcome of a game entirely, what are some of those sequences that this upcoming fall you'd like to see go more your way or less your way? Just some of those breaks, lucky breaks, good breaks one way or the other.
That's a good one. I think our big one from this last year was mainly we created a lot of chances to score, and we scored more, but like we left a lot on the table. And I think that's the big one for me, is we got to be more clinical, a little hungrier, kind of, and have that confidence that like, not that you're hoping to score, but that you're going to score. So that's a big one. I think defensively, probably again, we gave up a few more goals than we wanted to this last year. But overall we were still pretty good, but we just need to be a little bit grittier, kind of working a little bit more, and they work good as a unit, but also like sensing the danger a little bit earlier at times. Because on the sideline, obviously I'm seeing stuff sometimes early where I'm going like, it's not the kid on the ball right now. It's the kid that's 30 yards away, but is open or in a dangerous area. And you're like, we need to be like alert and seeing that. But I think that's, probably, and I kind of talked about it at the start, just with like experience. I think the group that we have, gaining the experience they have over the last couple of years, but like taking more ownership as well. And a lot of that's communication as well. So like in situations like that, hoping that it's not the coach going like, watch out for that kid over there. It's like one of them's already seen it and they're like, hey, watch behind you. So, but yeah, I think those are probably the main ones. But if again, the more goals you score, much easier over the years, I've learned.
Who, aside from the girls that I kind of highlighted at the beginning, Quinn, Madison, and Aubrey, are some girls that you have rostered returners who you're expecting to step up into huge roles? Who would you like to highlight?
Yeah, I'd say probably in the back, Sam Larkin, she's a sophomore center back. Ella McCleary, she's a junior center back, and then Tessa Pretis is a freshman center back who played a little bit. They're probably like our main three right now. They played most of the minutes last year. some of our kids have played more on the wing. We lost a couple of our big losses this year were senior wingbacks. So we have some other kids that are wingbacks, but we're kind of playing further up the field because we didn't sub as much in the back. But like Abby Huttiger, Bailey Allen, Morgan Puskar, we're leaving out. Those are probably like the main three. I know I'll leave somebody out. And then like Hannah Ritter's should be a 5th year, so she was pretty important for us this last year, but we're happy she's coming back. Julia Bohanek, Mackenzie Wright. Those are kind of more of our kind of defensive midfielders. That's the majority of our mids. I'm sure I'm leaving a few kids out, but in terms of the older kids. But yeah, I mean, we have like I said, I'm kind of naming off quite a few kids. And I think that's one of our strengths is our depth. So good and bad though. We're hoping that some of those kids like separate themselves from the rest of the kids. So it makes it easier to be like, oh, you're the one that should play the most. But good problem to have that we have like other kids that can play too. It's not like we have like 10, 11 kids that were like, okay, you're not coming off the field. We have a lot of other kids, but so you kind of want to, you always want the best possible team you can put on the field, but obviously you need to have that depth too. And I feel like we're extremely deep. So I don't know. I'm kind of want both. I want like the stars, but also want the other kids to like push those kids and get on the field as well. So I think we're in a good spot. It's just a matter of hopefully, kids just being competitive with each other and, trying to stake their claim to like, this is my spot. This is my role.
We've talked about it before. I mean, fresh legs goes a long way in the 67th minute or whatever. And it's incredibly, I'll say the same thing I said to Kellen Nesbitt it's always very encouraging when you see a head coach who's excited about his team in the second week of February. Looking ahead, it's always very encouraging.
Especially on a day like today.
Head coach Mike Cannon, anything else I'm forgetting about?
I don't think so. Appreciate it.
Friend of the program, head coach Mike Cannon, Kirksville women's soccer, Truman State University women's soccer. I apologize. Thank you for joining us again this Wednesday. I've been Henry Jansen, sports writer for the Kirksville Daily Express. It has been raining cats and dogs, and we will catch you guys next week. Thanks again, Coach.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.